Just yesterday, Honorable Yakubu Bade, the lawmaker representing the Chikun Kajaro Federal Constituency in the House of Representatives, confirmed the worst fears of many political observers. He confirmed that his colleagues in the House were teleguided to vote against the electronic transmission of results during consideration of the Electronic Act, the Election Act Amendment Bill, the Electoral Act Amendment Bill by the legislature. According to him, the moment the news of the no vote by Senator Remi Tinubu was relayed to members of the House of Representatives, it immediately swayed the voting choices of some APC members, many of whom he claimed had previously rooted for electronic transmission. Badi explained that Remi Tinubu's vote was taken as a subtle message that was passed by her husband and one of the national leaders of the All Progressives Congress, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, to APC lawmakers in the House to vote along the same lines. The vote by Southwest lawmakers in particular also contradicted what the region had long been reputed for as a champion of democratic values, transparency, electoral reforms, and its general progressive leaning. To discuss the events of last week and the new brand of politics emerging from the Southwest geopolitical zone, we're now being joined from Abuja by Senator Ayo Alishe, a member of the ruling All Progressives Congress who represented Ekiti North Senatorial District in the National Assembly from 2007 to 2011. Welcome to the show, Senator Alishe. Good morning. Hello, Senator. Good morning. Well, it's good to see you again. You're welcome to the morning show. Well, incidentally, your nickname is Arise. And so this is a case of having Arise on Arise TV.
Yes. And,
so this is a meeting of Arise.
I have to be telling people the name of Onduka.
Anyway, you're welcome. Well, quickly, you must have listened to my introduction. Many Nigerians are concerned, particularly within the civil society community, that Southwest lawmakers, who often talk about progressive politics, ended up last week abandoning that ideology of progressive politics when they chose to vote in a manner that came across as a coup against the Nigerian people who want electoral integrity, credibility of elections, the use of technology to ensure transparency and accountability and elections. What has happened in Southwest politics, to start with that? Is this a case of a puppeteer controlling the puppet? What do you know in this regard?
Let me just say that I'm speaking as Ayo Arishe because nobody has approached me about the policy behind the way our senators voted. But it's deeply very troubling because it's not unique to APC, but I was hoping that my party would look more into the future than what looks like an attempt for self-perpetuation in office or a difference to self-security, more or less. Everybody has a right to vote any way it desires, but this particular topic, let me say that if the other party were in power to, this self-preservation policy would actually have taken place as well, because I participated in the electoral amendment in 2010, and there were so many of those amendments that we were pushing for. Some of us were pushing for, but I never saw the light of the day. But again, this certainly exonerates Mr. President because he's not looking for an election again. And I believe this sits squarely with the senators or the National Assembly members. For me, I look at it that why it's troubling is because this would continue. If another party comes to power, they will also want to preserve this same type of policy that would put some shadow on transparency. And I don't see why, and there is no way we can avoid having electoral or an improvement, a general improvement on the way our results are released. We know that naturally the only way a person who wants to maybe perpetrate rigging in office is to ensure, and that is carried out between the polling unit and the maybe where you have state level coordination, or maybe at the federal, anything could happen. And besides, good enough, we have electronic voting. Now, that is a step further. But this electronic transmission certainly would have been the best for this country under the circumstances. If it's not done now, it will still have to be done sometimes in the future because it's the best for us. We have to start thinking about our country, about the future of this nation, and stop and reduce the thought towards selfish thoughts that, okay, I have to be in office, I must be able to have control to manipulate what the result will be at the end of the day. If there is no manipulation, intention, then there is no reason to talk about anything other than electronic transmission at this point in time in the country. So that's basically, I'm worried, you know.
Okay.
And I don't think that is the belief and the thoughts of the majority of people from the Southwest. We want electronic voting. And I believe most of the Southern governors I was made to understand had discussions, and people, the intention even of those who are in power at the state level is that they believe more in this transparency and the next move towards achieving electoral integrity in Nigeria.
Okay, and so let's explore that a little further. Are you blaming squarely the lawmakers here when you talk about self-preservation and you say the governors or most people in the South want more transparent electoral process? And I'm asking because of what seems to be an inefficient working relationship between the Southern governors and the Southern lawmakers. Another example is the PIB. You recall that this is coming just barely weeks after the 17 Southern governors met in Lagos for a second time, rejecting some of the proposals in the PIB. However, we saw lawmakers from the southern part of the country vote in favor of the rejected proposals by the governors. How would you describe the working relationship between the Southern governors and the Southern lawmakers at the moment?
Well, again, I'm currently not, as you know, I'm not in the Senate, so I don't attend their meetings. But from what we read in the media, the newspapers, and both social and physical print, it appears that this particular voting pattern on the issue of electronic transmission, I don't think, from what I read, that is the position of the majority of the governors from the Southwest or even the South in general. It's not about South-North. It's about our future. It's about the fact that what is good is what everybody should be thinking about for Nigeria. Listen to some of the arguments. Some says we do not have data in some places. But I look at it, if you say you want to construct roads to some rural areas, and some people are presenting the argument that there are no cars there, you know, and so you should not construct the roads. So you are already assuming that people there will never own a car. So the logic baffles me in every way you look at it. So I don't think it's about the South or the North, but it's about delivering the dividends of democracy to the people of this country. I mean, we can understand. In the days we had the military, they could appoint anybody, but we are talking of voting. So let us protect the integrity of the votes and let the vote for the people count. We have made some tremendous progress over the years. I don't know why this suddenly became a problem, because I look at it, every way you look at it, we have to move forward from point A to point B. And the progress of this nation is paramount. That's why we have lawmakers, to ensure that we make laws that will promote what we call transparency, particularly as it relates to elections, and integrity as it relates to elections. If a person is voted for, and these machines, more or less, when you even transmit, a record is still kept on the terminals. So it's not absolute that, okay, the fact that you have transmitted the result, if you have to question it, you can still go there and question, and that can be, the courts will still be able to look at what actually took place at the polling units. So it's not absolute, and it does not even mean that immediately you do transmission, that will end all electoral malpractices. But we are making progressive steps, one at a time in this country. So let us continue to move forward. I do not think that this is a good action, from the National Assembly. So far, that's my personal opinion. I'm not talking for the party, but because nobody ever told me this is the way that we want to vote, this is the way we want the Electoral to go. I didn't ask, but looking at what is good for this country, it is the best solution to ensure that we move forward and we have progress in the electoral process.
Right. Yeah, this is not the way you thought it was going to go. It's not good for the party and all of that narrative. But what about, allegations that, they heard somebody vote in a certain way and it influenced the other people's vote? So is it that there's no room for that progressive expression again? I mean, because when you look at the antecedents of political parties in the South here, we all know the Action Group and we know what it stood for. Chief Obafemi Awolowo was not an autocratic, regimented leader. He always gave everybody a fair chance to speak out their mind. They would say we're educated, we're progressive, we're forward-thinking, we're forward-looking. And INEC has come out to say this is possible. Even the NC has come out to say this is possible. So, what's happening?
Well, again, it's a very troubling situation. And I believe if Senator Tinubu voted in a particular manner, which people have seen, that will certainly affect the thinking of a majority of the members of the party, because it just happens that the husband is the leader of the party. So the people now decided to vote in that way. Of course, a number of people got there by virtue of maybe the magnanimity. It's not, when you look at of a husband, so they are not likely going to see the way she voted, and they'll be voting a different way. But that's got nothing to do with the independence of mind of senators, which should be preserved. Because, when you look at historically, Senator Kennedy, who later became president, wrote a book on profiles in courage, and selected those senators who counted when it most mattered, in politics of the US. The way they voted, even though not the way their party was thinking, but they stood up and said, no, this is the way we want to see America go politically down the road. And those people were named and numbered, and they still remain a part of history. Whatever action a person takes, either you are with the people, or you are thinking more about yourself and preserving yourself. That is what I say that has happened, because everybody's looking at, okay, if I vote against this and this is the way my leader is thinking, because it might not be, I don't know, but it's safe to assume that if Senator Tinubu voted the way she voted, it could be a conviction that that's what she wants, but most people would imagine, want to link it to the fact that her husband has tremendous influence, and he's the leader of the party. So I won't probably lay any blame on those who voted in that way, but we need to start thinking about what is good for our country. And it's not, that's it.
But Senator, what do you say about those members of the Senate who, when it came to the decisive moment that the vote was to be taken, quietly left the chamber and disappeared so that they would not be a part of it? Is that part of the House rules that you can just run away when you are supposed to speak up for your people, for your constituents? And then there was a different incident on Friday in the House of Reps, whereby members of the People's Democratic Party staged a walkout because they could see very clearly, as one of our guests yesterday pointed out, that they had been outnumbered and that their vote would not make any difference. What do you make of that? And it will look as if the initial suspicion that that bill, as harmonized, as agreed upon before it was represented, had been tampered with. Is it standard practice in the Senate or the House of Reps when you were there for some people, a committee, to go behind and tamper with what had been generally agreed upon?
Well, the committee system is such that ordinarily, when they decide and they bring it to the floor of the Senate, it's almost because you have given them assignments, and these are trusted people, I believe, will be able to do their work. And having finished, they will just lay it, you read it, you approve, or you amend, if necessary, on the floor. Now, in terms of those who probably absconded, I think they probably have, I think they are troubled about either way to go. If it is true that there has been some directive, and which is the way the party wants to go, it's safer for them not to vote than to vote against their conscience. I'm not making any excuse for, people, everybody there is an accomplished person somehow, and we should be able to stand up for the people. That is it. Because the way it's going, the ordinary person in this country, in the future down the road, if we continue in this manner, they will have no say in the affairs of this nation. And that is a recipe for disaster, for crisis, that would become endless. Everybody must have equal opportunity, and you must be sure that even if it's a school teacher that is very popular in a school, and people know that he's working very hard, and the society, the environment he lives, they love him, and they want such a person to represent them. You now look at it that, what are the chances when votes are counted? You don't know what the outcome of the result will be. It doesn't make any sense. So these are temporary and pyrrhic victories for a group of people. And I personally would never be a part of such, because it's not so much about you have to hold on, I don't know. I'm really, I'm really not happy about the entire outcome, because I spoke on this much earlier. Because these people have a debt with history. You need to do what is right at the right time. This is the right time for electronic, not only electronic voting, but transmission of the results. It's something what part of your earlier program? It's just maybe by SMS, which everybody knows how to do now in the country. So I think there must be a revisit very soon, and amendment is a process. It will continue. This does not mean the end. We have not seen the end of this. Next time, maybe when a new set of people come around, they will sit down and look at it and say, this is in their own interest, considering the fact that they are able to come in through what we call the electoral process. We should not continue to undermine this process through our actions. This particular action from the National Assembly is very worrisome. And I hope that the people will pick their phones and talk to their representatives. We want a future for our children. We do not want just one crop or one elite or a group of people to continue to perpetrate and be the ruling class. The moment you have that in any nation, there will be crisis. And that is why we should leave the doors open for the poor person or the poor man's child to be able to attain any position, and they would have had their own experience which they can bring to governorship. So the moment we say we are the ones that we've hijacked power and we're not going to hold on to it by our actions, is very troubling for the country.
Well, your views are very refreshing. However, you're part of the party seen not to be interested in the sanctity of the ballot and deepening of the process with technology come 2023. The perception and the insinuation is that the APC is planning to rig the elections come 2023. You are worried as a person. But how worried should your party be? And how do you think you can redeem yourself from these insinuations, perception, and narrative by the opposition group, by civil society group, and by society?
Well, let me put it this way. I'm speaking as a Nigerian. If it were based on purely party issues, the PDP would do the same thing. They would not pass this thing if they were the ones in power. So, and it's not as something that we have not seen before. But it is time for some of us to start getting up and speaking to our people and talking to the government. Because the fact that you're in government does not mean that you know it all. You might not see the perspective of everybody. So it's the duty and responsibility of everyone to speak up that this is what we want in this country. We want Nigeria to progress. We are the example of a black nation. We are the example of what the black man is capable of doing. We should demonstrate that in our actions, in everything that we do. I mean, when you look at it, I'm very proud to be a member of the APC for the numerous achievements. I mean, many of my friends, they call me now, they go from Lagos to Ibadan by the train. And it takes them maybe around 2.5 hours. People go there, they celebrate, some are even planning on living in Ibadan and working in Lagos. That is a typical example of what you can say the APC has done. And you look at so many other things. You look at the trader money, the social safety nets they've created for the people. I mean, but having said that, I can continue to reel out a number of very good policies, very good things that this party has done for Nigeria. But this particular step, we need to look at it very critically. If it is not too late to correct that anomaly, this electronic transmission is not going to hurt anybody, particularly if you work hard and ensure that you are in a democracy, you want people to vote for you. and you do not want to be a victim of such. If you don't want to be a victim, then make sure that it's very difficult for anybody to manipulate any result after the voting. That is all one is asking for. And I'm sure it's not an APC or a PDP or ABGA or any problem. It's a problem for society. It's a problem of Nigeria. We need to correct it now. Okay. So that's it. It's not about whether my party. Yes, this is my party, and I'm very proud of being a member of the APC for all the good things they have done. But if they have done something wrong, I will still say they've done this wrong, and this is wrong.
That's why, Arisha, a lot of people too are saying that as a footnote too. Let's not forget that the fact that some of the trains are breaking down too, and we've had many breakdowns of trains too in this country. But moving on, you said we should contact the people, talk to the National Assembly members, but the Senate President came out and was complaining about over 900 calls and text messages on his phone. So if people that are supposed to be servants of the people are complaining that the people are calling them for a very important bill like this, then who should we talk to?
Well, if the Senate President is complaining, maybe he was a little bit overwhelmed. He has a big job. He's the number 3 citizen, and people will call him. They have his phone number, and there is no need for him to. You can't even complain. You are the president of the Senate, and he's the one that this thing rests on his neck. So everybody will continue to call him. And if you take such responsibility, you can expect that people will keep on calling. And he might be overwhelmed. There's no doubt about it, and that's the expression. But he cannot expect that somebody like myself will be getting as many calls as he's getting. An ordinary Nigerian will not get such calls. But he is the president of the nation. And the only reason, and he doesn't have, maybe he has not appointed, it's not like the president of the country who can appoint ministers to weather and take all those pressure from him. And that is why the presidential system is well defined. But the Senate president, you are the person that is heading the whole nation in terms of the grassroots people and in terms of the representation for the party. So if they are calling him, I think he must just have been overwhelmed to make that expression. But who else would anybody call? But what we are saying is that you call your senators, not the Senate president. Call your senators, and your senators will be the one that will vote. The Senate president sits there and oversees the voting at the end of the day. Whichever way people voted is what is going to come out and report. So if you call your senators and talk to them that, please, this is very dear to Nigerians. We do not want you to oppose this thing. And he came out and said, you should lobby. He said we should lobby. And of course, lobbying is part of the presidential system of government. So if people had lobbied their senators to talk to them and let them know that this is what we want to see done, I believe maybe the outcome would have been different. But again, if people, this was supposed to be a secret ballot, if people did not realize that a leader has voted or a senator has voted one way and they are now shifting because of that, maybe it would have been a little bit different. But the moment, it's just like myself, if I go to my local area to go and seek for election or anything for that matter, they will be looking at me. How am I going? Where am I leaning? So it has a way of having influence without necessarily saying so. And so many things cannot be resolved in 1 year or in 1 day in a political system. So we need to start looking at how to ensure that the next time this amendment comes to the floor of the National Assembly, that it goes unhindered and that is passed for the benefit of Nigerians. Because I think right now, the deed has been done. So unless the president says he's not signing, but if the president doesn't sign, then what the whole thing that we have now becomes at least the electronic voting that is there and all that is already in there. Well, now it's like throwing the battle out the baby. So I would say, yes, somehow, we'll continue to be vigilant, we'll continue to monitor, but this one, I think, is more or less, for now, maybe it's gone. So we have to be looking at the next opportunity.
Well, thank you very much, Senator Arishe. Thank you for joining us on the morning show. I think you made a point. The whole idea of lawmaking is to make laws for the benefit of Nigerians, for good justice. Thank you for good governance and justice and fair play. Thank you very much for joining us.